What's up, dudes and dudettes of the year? My name's Scythe, and we are back again for more Astroneer, the final frontier, and we're on the moon again. Bang! Zoom! Straight to the moon. How y'all doing today, folks? Hope you're doing fantastically wonderful. Hope this video makes your day even better, and I would very much appreciate if you would hit that like button. So would he, right, little guy? Yes, that's right, boss. Okay, it's just me. I'm just kidding. So we're probably just gonna warp off world here, folks, because I pretty much ended up making the tethers go almost all the way around the moon, and needless to say, it was not very exciting. Didn't really end up finding any different resources, but shout out to Ronnie, who actually ended up telling me, as well as a couple other people in the Discord channel. Links are in the description for that. But you know how in the last episode, or if you're playing through this game yourself, you've come across some different resources where you can't actually mine them. They're in kind of a rock formation or a piece of dirt that you can't actually dig or anything like that, right? Now, I naturally assumed that you had to use TNT or dynamite to actually blast your way into those, and that still may remain to be true. But it turns out that that is actually what the crane is used for, that you would put on a vehicle. Now, while I would love to experiment with that and show you all what that is, I cannot justify by any means to actually create a vehicle and use all the resources on this moon planet. So instead, we're just gonna rocket away right here, right now. We've got our habitat, we got a bunch of different supplies all set up, and needless to say, we've got lots and lots of fuel as well. I want to go to another planet and actually set up a proper home base, and hopefully it's going to be something that we can actually bother to explore, because when we went to the moon, it was kind of a dud just as we ended up getting there, because unfortunately there wasn't really anything worth exploring or worth talking about on that planet. You know, there was no blueprints or anything. Now, we could go to the tundra or one of these other planets in the distance, but I'm just going to say let's go to the tundra because it's right nearby, and it's a planet that I haven't actually experienced, so this is going to be very, very exciting. I know we're just kind of rocketing right away here, but I want to get to the point of just getting off of that rock. I explored most of the moon, checked out, there was actually a couple different big, huge canyons that I experienced, and needless to say, they were very underwhelming and didn't really have anything in them that was worthwhile. I did want to actually burrow our way through the moon, but that's okay, we don't really need to do that. Tundra should be a nice planet, right? It is, and it's full of spikes. I'm scared. Seriously, somebody hold me. I'm probably gonna freeze to death somehow too. Now, the thing too that I've heard, haven't experienced it for myself, but I have heard that you can actually build a giant sky bridge from the main planet up to the moon. That could be the case, but I honestly don't really know whether or not it really is. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Let me actually flatten out the terrain right here and then kind of set up, but otherwise, man alive, this place sure is dead. There we go. We've set up a nice, beautiful base, and I gotta actually flatten out most of this terrain. And this mountain that we're on right here, this is a pretty cool place. We could call this home, you know? I think so anyways. Don't know whether or not, like, what is the resource? What is mostly going to be the big power consumption that we're going to have on this planet? That's what I'm interested to see, because otherwise it's going to take me a little bit to set up here, and then we'll try and get a little bit of exploring done today, just kind of so that we can actually experiment with it. I do want to get a couple of the different structures that we're going to desperately need, like the smeltery is one that we're going to need, not to mention just the 3D printer and stuff like that. The vehicle bay, we might try and rush that one right away if we can actually afford it, because you know, a vehicle on this planet is going to be mandatory. Like, seriously, it really is. Thankfully, we have enough extra resin for this, because otherwise, honestly speaking, folks, we gotta find out what the resources are on this planet. We gotta find out whether or not, like, is resin actually going to be a thing, or are we gonna end up being screwed? Yeah, so the vehicle bay is gonna cost some aluminum, which I think we actually have on this storage unit right here. Let me actually plop that down on the side and see. So we got some copper, we got some aluminum, we only have one aluminum. Okay, well, that means we can't construct a vehicle bay anytime soon, but at the least, we're going to definitely, I don't know why that's doing that, but whatever. We're definitely gonna get a smeltery as soon as possible. Or is this aluminum right there? Oh, it is, nice! But yeah, we're gonna need a smeltery, because as we're getting more and more ore and stuff like that, we're gonna have to try and get our hands on as much of it as, like, possible, and the only way that we can do that is if we end up having a actual smeltery, right? Because I don't know whether or not, like I said, I don't know whether or not we're going to be able to actually find, like, what are the resources that are going to be on this planet. I don't know. In fact, it seems like I'm a little bit underprepared here because I don't actually have any compound. Ooh, rip me. I mean, worst case scenario, we can end up actually flying back to our home planet to try and get some of these resources, but we actually generated a very nice little cave right here. So I'm going to try and see what we can see. What type of resources do we actually have down here? Because the compound is going to be the big one that we're going to need. This cave looks very, very deadly, and it's actually got some pretty insane, like, generation down in here. I'm really excited to see what this is. Or is that just what the walls end up looking like? Ooh, that is so cool, dude. That is so deadly, man alive. That is a huge cliff. I mean, we're gonna have to watch ourselves here with all of the different, you know, we're slowly suffocating here, but this is still really, really neat. At the least. Okay, so we got acid spitters. We got this thing right here, which I'm pretty sure is actually a very, very deadly plant. Ew. We're gonna need to also get our hands on, as soon as possible, a research station so that we can try and find out whether or not we can end up actually getting anything that we can research. I don't want to end up falling while we have all these resources on us right now. Ay. So I'm not noticing any compound or anything worthwhile down here. I mean, granted, like inside all of these plants that are beside us, we could end up using those to grab ourselves some more research stuff. The other thing too that I'm a little bit worried about and wanting to find out is this planet going to actually end up having, you know, something crazy with the, like, oh, that's gonna cost aluminum, rip. Is it gonna have like big sandstorms and stuff like that? Probably not so much, just because it is a big tundra planet, but maybe it secretly will. I don't know. I don't want to explore too far out of our base, and worst case scenario, like I said, I can rocket back to our home planet, but that's gonna end up eating up a lot of fuel. So there we've got some fuel right there. Got our cave over there as well. This planet is beautiful, to say the least, though. Like, seriously, I'm loving it. I mean, even though it's kind of just all one color, but it still is pretty neat, right? So let's try and get to the top of this hill. We got more fuel, as well as some oxygen. This is going to end up coming in handy, actually, right now, and because we're going to need as much of it as we can. So that should have topped us back up on our oxygen meter there. I want to try and get to the top of the cliff, though, because that's actually really, really useful for when you're trying to see, like, the surroundings and everything like that. At the least, we technically, like, that's the thing, if we do have to go back to our home planet, maybe that's kind of the point, where there's actually all this fuel around, specifically because we would end up rocketing back to our planet and having to use all the fuel. That might be the case, not exactly sure. But I'm assuming that probably is just kind of how the game has ended up generating, because I'm sure they're smart enough to do it all on purpose, right? Oh my goodness gracious, this is a huge planet. I'm really excited to see this view, even though it's gonna be all dark. Oh, don't fall, you idiot! No! There's also a very, very weird structure over there. We got a bunch of strange rocks over in that direction, and then that over there looks like a giant solar panel, so that's something that we could definitely end up using if we can construct ourselves a vehicle. We could end up getting the vehicle and the winch and bringing that back to our base, essentially giving us infinite power during the daytime. So that's actually really, really good to know. I gotta keep that in mind. Also gotta try and flatten this stupid mountain out, like, seriously. I don't want to venture out too far, and I'm very worried that these spiked rocks might actually cause damage to us. I don't think so, just because of the way that this game works. Oh my goodness, these are all rocks all around us. Like, this is insane generation. More fuel all over the place. Don't know what the resources are going to be inside the planet. We may end up actually getting coal, because I think we've actually seen all of the different resources already. I want to try and keep our home base kind of close in hand here, because otherwise if we venture out too far. So we do have some vegetation, despite the fact that we're on an ice planet, so we can actually use generators. That's a good thing to keep in mind. And again, with the fuel just being all over the place, like, seriously. I do want to, whoopsie daisy, I didn't even notice that our oxygen was getting that low. I mean, worst case, if we do end up dying nearby, there is another gigantic station right over there. We might end up, you know what I'm going to try and do here? Let's see if we can get, well, that actually might be too far away. Yeah, that's gonna be way too far. Otherwise, I really wanted to actually try and get our oxygen topped up and then run all the way out there so that we could bring that power station to us, but we're not really going to be able to do anything like that. So now that we're actually going to end up making this our home base, I'm going to try and get some of these things a little bit empty here. Did that actually, whoopsie daisy, the camera really likes to jerk around a lot. It's really annoying sometimes. But yeah, I'm gonna try and get these storage units as empty as possible, and then we're gonna fly back to our home planet there so that we can end up grabbing some stuff. All right, so I was able to get 2 of our storage units emptied out, and then I just noticed that we actually did have some compounds secretly on hand. But, I mean, I gotta try and keep that in mind for the future. It wasn't showing up on our backpack because it was showing up down here in the secret inventory slot. So, rip me, but at the least it does mean that we get to explore a little bit today without having to go all the way back to our home base. I want to see what that big structure is up there. Hopefully these tethers are going to be enough to actually get us out there because that's looking really, really cool. I want to also kind of experiment a little bit more with the terrain. Just while we're on this planet especially, because we didn't really get to do much of that on the first planet. Yeah, we might not actually have enough tethers to do this, unfortunately. But, like, kind of just making, you know, like, nice pathways and stuff like that. Like, I really want to actually make the environment feel more like a home and kind of like a base that will actually, like, really want to kind of stick around for a long time, you know? I mean, granted, we might not even be on this planet for very long, honestly speaking. Who knows? We'll see what happens. But I still just want to kind of do that anyway. Maybe even build a couple structures just with our digging tool, you know? Okay, so we should have enough, yeah, we should have enough oxygen to actually get out here. This field area is really nice, and what it ended up generating is really cool too. So we got a research thing. We'll bring that back to home base, and we should have enough oxygen to see whether or not there's actually anything on this thing. No, it doesn't look like it. It doesn't look like there's anything around, actually. Just a bunch of garbage and then some more fuel that we don't necessarily need. I also, yep, I heard the sandstorm and I noticed it right then and there. It is actually heading towards, yeah, it's heading right towards our base. Not necessarily at us right now, is it? Is it actually at us right now? Because otherwise we're gonna be in trouble because oxygen we are not having right now. We're actually really low. Okay, we're actually in the sandstorm right now. This is really dangerous because we could end up dead any minute. But I gotta try and get back to our tethers. That's like the top priority right now. And then end up kind of digging a little bit of a hole. But let's see whether or not we can do this. There's our tethers right over here, because otherwise there's gonna be all sorts of rocks hurling all over the place. But yeah, I'm gonna try and hide in here and kind of wait this out. Okay, that was actually over relatively quickly. I wonder if they're actually moving like a lot faster or something. Another thing too I noticed out of the corner of my eye was that right there, which normally you don't actually see these things generate up on the surface. That's pretty much a light source that you can use in a vehicle. We ended up finding one of those on our home planet, but it's not really that useful because unfortunately, as you kind of attach stuff to the front and back of your vehicle, usually if you end up bumping into a bit too many things, it'll end up just falling right out of it. Now, we're not going to be able to research this thing, unfortunately, and despite the fact that I really don't want to end up actually going all the way off-world and stuff like that, we're definitely going to have to go back to our home planet for sure to get ourselves some extra compound and other resources. So I'm just going to head back right now, and hopefully I can end up finding this base once again. Oh. Okay, so this is something that I was actually really worried about with this tundra planet, is our home planet's actually the one that's way over there in the distance, close to the sun. I didn't know that this tundra was just a very small window of it actually being in the rotational pull of our main planet. So I guess that means rip. We're just gonna have to try and tough it out and hopefully find ourselves some compound and stuff like that. We should, because usually this game's pretty good for having those resources on all the planets. But at the same time, I don't really know. Like, that's the thing. This planet may end up giving us enough stuff to survive as far as energy consumption and stuff is concerned. I didn't want to land there. That's cool game. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to end up getting stuff to actually construct these structures. I'm going to see if I can actually fix this park job, because otherwise that's just stupid. And there goes our home. So we're going to have to sit here and wait for the entire rotation of the planet before I can actually double check. I mean, maybe there secretly is a way of doing it. I wish that there was, where we could actually just click and drag and rotate the planet ourselves, maybe similar to the Spore game, you know? All right, we're about to miss our opportunity here. I gotta be very, very careful, because you can see that there is 2 landing spots right there, and I don't want to get that first one. I want to actually get that second one right there. So difficult, because you gotta precisely click on it while the planet is still rotating. I hope that was the one, not the top spot. I clicked on the bottom one, and perfect. Okay, so that's actually the one that we have to land on. All right, that unfortunately took quite a bit of our fuel, and I may still off camera have to actually kind of, you know, set up and get ourselves back to our main home planet before we can end up actually doing any of this stuff. But otherwise, yeah, oxygen is going to be the big thing. Where is oxygen tanks? What do those actually cost? Filters cost compound as well. That's not good, man. That's really not good, because compound is the big thing that we don't have right now. We can make plenty of batteries. We can't make any tethers. I wish that we could actually make a little bit more of them, because otherwise I'm going to have to go and grab these tethers and kind of like reuse them over and over, you know what I mean? I do want to actually head over to these rocks just maybe before we call it a day, and see whether or not these are generated as compound or anything like that. Maybe I should actually leave most of our power just back at home base and just kind of go off in a straight direction out on the planet's surface and kind of see what's up. I'm actually going to do that. I'm going to drop all our power off at home base, because we're going to definitely need to use it in the future. I mean, it's not like the power is that difficult a resource to come by, especially with all the caves that we've got nearby, but still. And as I've mentioned in other episodes, these 2 extra slots right here, even if we end up dying, you actually keep those slots. So I want to head over to the satellite here. And then just because it's kind of the furthest point that we got to, and then there was all this flat terrain, and I really want to see whether or not there's anything interesting out here, because I mean, I kind of, you know, my mistake on that part. I ended up stranding us here because, unfortunately, I didn't notice the lack of compound, unless that's some compound in the distance right there. Oh, please, fingers crossed. Is this compound over here? Doesn't look like it. Nah, it's just a bunch of boulders. That's not what I wanted. I wanted some compound. Still a really cool planet, to be sure. And I might, like I keep saying, I might actually have to, like, just go back to our home planet anyways, because otherwise, yeah, we're really not seeming to run into any of this good stuff. So there's titanium. We're gonna need a crane to actually get that. Here's some more fuel. Thank goodness they have so much fuel, because at the least, it means that worst case, I'll just have to, like I kind of keep saying, wait in space for us to actually show up in the proper rotational pole so that we can end up going back to our home planet. Very strange stuff around, though. Like, lots and lots of fuel. Like, this planet is absolutely rich with this stuff. And is this compound? No, that's not compound. That's just a bunch of dirt. Jeez Louise. Because if we can end up finding compound, even if it's way out here, at the least, you know, it would end up being something worthwhile. I mean, it could still end up being inside the caves, but I don't really want to spend that much time in the caves right now, just because of how deadly it is with all the different plants and stuff. Okay, so here's some extra oxygen. The game is telling us, it's telling us that it wants us to keep exploring. Yes, because otherwise I'm noticing we're getting a little bit on time here, folks. So I want to try and explore as much as we can. Noticing, what are these structures up here? Are those actually a bunch of different research nodes? I should have actually taken, can we make a beacon? What does a beacon actually cost? It costs compound. Rip, man, okay. But yeah, there's actually a bunch of different research nodes up here. Lots of them, in fact. Like, we've got 4 of them alone that I can see. And a spaceship in the distance here. Hopefully we can end up finding something worthwhile. Is that 4 or 5? So many different research nodes. It's insane. And we've got some more oxygen. So that's great. Because I want to desperately see whether or not this planet... or not the planet, weird stuff going around, like, seriously. I want to see if this ship ended up actually generating with something, because we may have to try and get to this ship sometime in the future, probably. Doesn't look like we generated any compound, just a bunch of resin, titanium, and a chair. Definitely good, for sure. Good stuff. And then also a research station thing. Let's try and head off in the distance. It's too bad we didn't generate this as our base down here, because this area is a lot more beautiful and a lot more vibrant just with the colors and the purples and all that stuff. Oddly enough, why is one half of this planet actually like a desert? That is pretty insane, dude. Like, that's pretty nuts. So we actually are out of, you know, we're out of oxygen. We can't sprint anymore. We're just gonna end up dead. But at least all we're gonna end up losing is just one small thing. Can we peek over the mountain? No, we can't, Riff. I can't see it. Well, anyway, still very, very cool planet. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to try and get all of this stuff in order, folks. Here comes a sandstorm. Rip my face. Jeez Louise. But thanks so much for watching, everybody, because that's all the time that we have for today. Would very much appreciate if you would hit that like button, share, favorite, and subscribe for more daily content. Sign on, stay epic, everybody.